By the summer of 2023, Susan Lorincz and Ajike Owens were embroiled in an increasingly ugly and contentious 2.5-year dispute. Miss Lorincz claimed that AJ's kids trespassed on her property, threatened her, and made entirely too much noise while playing in the field beside her apartment. On the other hand, AJ was furious because she said Miss Lorincz regularly called her kids racially charged names, including the N-word.
He told us that Miss Owens herself told her, "I said to Susan, if you walk up on my sons again, you're gonna have to deal with me."
Sadly, the feud ended tragically and dramatically on the night of June the 2nd, 2023.
It was a Friday night in summer, and the neighborhood kids were out playing in a field near Susan Lorinc's apartment. Lorincz told the kids to scram.
Ends up throwing the roller skate and says, "Here, go fetch."
The mother of those two kids, AJ Owens, went to confront Lorincz.
My wall in between our two apartments started shaking and like pounding on the wall. And it really scared me.
Owens would never make it back to see her children.
The woman was screaming and yelling and she was trying to break down my door and I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot her.
Before we begin, we would like to extend our most sincere condolences to the victims in this case. 34-year-old AJ Owens was a devoted single mother of 4, Isaac, Israel, Africa, and Titus. They all lived together in an apartment in the city of Ocala in Central Florida. AJ worked in the hospitality industry and spent most of her free time taking care of and attending to her children, who she absolutely adored. Unsurprisingly, they described her as a kind and caring mother who always put their needs and well-being ahead of her own. They didn't live in the best neighborhood, but the kids had lots of friends and there was plenty of open space outside where they could run and play. At the time, 58-year-old Susan Lorincz lived in another apartment complex just a stone's throw away. And to put it mildly, her life wasn't going well. Susan Lorincz previously worked for United Healthcare, but she stopped working in late May of 2023 and filed for disability. By then, she had almost no savings, and without an income, it was all she could do to come up with rent and a car payment each month. Needless to say, she was under a tremendous amount of stress. Under the circumstances, all Susan Lorincz wanted was a little peace and quiet when she was in her apartment, which was most of the time. But unfortunately for her, AJ Owens' children and their friends from the neighborhood often played in the empty field next to her home. And like kids everywhere, they usually made a lot of noise. This drove Susan Lorincz bonkers, and she regularly took cell phone video of the children playing and yelling in the field to prove they were shattering her much-needed peace and quiet. As such, she had a number of contentious run-ins with AJ and her children over the years. In addition to making too much noise, she claimed they spoke to her disrespectfully and threatened her and trespassed on her property. During one incident in early 2022, deputies responded to a call made by Susan Lorincz in which she claimed the Owens kids were disturbing the peace. When they arrived, she told them AJ Owens had come onto her property, yanked a steel no trespassing sign out of the ground and threw it at her leg. And this was just one of many similar incidents. In fact, police records indicate that officers responded to Susan Lorincz's apartment more than a half a dozen times beginning in January of 2021.
What about her said that she's going to come and drag my and beat me? When I started calling you because she wouldn't get out of my face, she just kept standing in front of me. I don't understand the attitude and stuff. You know, she runs over there whining her children. Who says no trespassing? And they're always walking the dog. The dog's always taking a crap. There's poop on the sidewalk. There's all kinds of stuff. I said, can you please guys stop? They know they're not supposed to be over here. They've been told many times. They've previously stole the no trespassing sign. And the kid tells me to shut up to my face. I said, don't be disrespectful. Yes, I would like to push charges. Okay. Because she doesn't need to hear.
Susan Lorincz made the same claims against AJ Owens and her kids each time. But when they talked to AJ, she said that Susan was the aggressor because she berated the children, calling them horrible names, and even stole the toys they left in the field. Susan Lorincz's personal life, as well as her feud with AJ Owens, got progressively worse going into the summer of 2023. On the afternoon of Friday, June the 2nd, 2023, one of AJ's sons was playing basketball in the street while his younger brother played in the field next to Miss Lorentz's apartment. The kids were just being kids, but to Susan Lorincz, their shrill voices and loud yells were too much to bear. At that moment, all the stress, all the previous run-ins, and all the perceived lack of respect finally came to a head. Susan Lorincz stormed out of her apartment, walked into the field, and picked up an iPad that AJ's son had left behind. When he figured out what happened, he went to her apartment, knocked on the door, and told her to give it back. But instead of handing it over, he said that she told him he was trespassing, uttered a number of racial slurs, and then threw the iPad on the ground. Later, the boy even claimed that she hit him with a roller skate and swung an umbrella at him. Whatever the case, Susan Lorincz slammed the door in his face, went into her kitchen, and called 911.
911, what is the address? What is your name?
Susan.
I'm sorry, you said your name was Susan?
Yes.
And what was your last name, Susan?
Lorincz, Lorincz.
Alright, and tell me exactly what happened.
We got kids trespassing again. They're leaving all the toys around. They're just screaming, yelling, just being absolutely obnoxious. I went and threw the roller skates over to the other side. The kid says, I'm going to beat you up for that. And he's mouthing off to me.
Alright.
Right in my own home.
Is he out there right now?
Yeah, there are several kids out there right now, and I'm fearing for my life. I'm very scared.
Okay. Alright, and what unit number are you in?
3.
Unit 3, okay.
Yes.
Do they also live in the same building?
No, they live across the street.
Okay. Were there any weapons involved?
No.
How many people are involved?
Earlier there was about 20 kids out there screaming, yelling, asked them to leave. They're like, screw you. Now there's 3 boys.
3?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I just don't like them coming around my house. They've been coming onto my deck, my patio, and telling me, get up, when I'm watching TV and stuff. They have no business over here. There's no trespassing sign. I don't like the kids threatening me that they're going to beat me up, that they're going to get someone else to kill me. And this is just ridiculous.
Are you or anyone else in danger right now?
I locked my doors.
Meanwhile, the boy ran across the street and told his mother what had happened. Needless to say, she was livid that Susan Lorincz called him such horrible names and threw his expensive iPad to the ground. Shortly thereafter, she marched across the street, walked up to the woman's apartment, and began yelling and banging on the door. It is unclear what AJ said. At this point, she was obviously angry, but was not armed. Susan Lorincz claimed that AJ was threatening to kill her in a loud and menacing voice. The apartment door was locked and deadbolted during the banging and verbal barrage, but Susan Lorincz claimed that she thought the door was about to fly off the hinges and that when it did, AJ Owens would storm into her apartment and kill her. We will never know what was going through her mind, but at approximately 9 p.m., she made the fateful decision of retrieving a Remington 380 semi-automatic pistol that she kept under the wastebasket beside her bed. Seconds later, a single gunshot reverberated throughout the neighborhood. Then Susan Lorincz picked up the phone and called 911 for the second time that day.
Screaming and yelling, and she was trying to break down my door. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot at the door.
At about the same time, AJ Owens' 12-year-old son also called 911. Afterward, he tried to perform CPR on his unconscious mother as she lay on Susan Lorintz's doorstep. Unbeknownst to Susan, the bullet fired from her Remington 380 struck AJ Owens in the chest after passing through her front door. First responders arrived at her apartment shortly thereafter.
97, I have one down. I have one elderly female barricaded in the house with a signal 0. I'm in front. All right. Sheriff's office, come outside with your hands up. Does the Marion County Sheriff's Office come outside with your hands up? Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Turn around. Turn around. Where's your gun at? I don't know what's going on. You're going to be detained for now.
Is there anybody else in the house? No. Nope. No, not right now.
You're not under arrest. You're being detained. Come over here. 64th Marion, females detained. Need medics. 1018. Hey, who all was out here when it happened? Hey.
I left my iPad over there because we were playing games. I went to get it. I said, give me my iPad to her. She threw the...
If y'all were here when it happened, just stand right here so I know who was out here when it happened, okay?
I left my iPad over there because we were playing games. And I went to go get it. I said, give me my iPad because she had it. She dropped it, tried to throw the skates at me. And and then I got my brother. He said, come hit me with the skates. And then
All right, bud. Give me a minute. Just hang out by my car, okay?
She told deputies what had happened earlier in the day and that she'd been having trouble with Ajike Owens and her kids for years. She also said that she intentionally aimed high and never meant to shoot Ajike, and that she only fired the gun because she was banging on the door and yelling, "I'm going to f***ing kill you." Later that night, a neighbor told deputies that Susan Lorincz came out of her apartment that afternoon, gave Ajike's kids the middle finger and told them to get off her property and called them black. When officers talked to Ajike's son, he said that Susan Lorincz took his iPad from the field earlier that day and that she regularly called him and the other children of color in the neighborhood bastards, jackasses, and slaves. She denied these allegations, but admitted to throwing roller skates into the field and telling the children to go fetch them. She also copped to swinging an umbrella at one of the boys, but she said she did it only to scare him off and that she never intended to hit him. Sadly, EMTs pronounced Ajike Owens dead at the site while deputies were busy questioning Susan Lorincz, Ajike's kids, and a number of neighbors who heard and witnessed the altercation. Shortly thereafter, Ajike's children found out that their mother was dead and that they would never see her again.
Oh, y'all seen it? Y'all understand it? Y'all experienced it, right? Okay. Y'all love me? Okay. Y'all love Mom? All right. Well, I got some bad news to tell you. Mom is not coming back anymore. Come. No. Come here. Come over here. Listen to me. No. I know. Okay. It's okay. I know. Okay. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am sorry. I'm so sorry.
You can't go home.
She's home. Okay. It's all right. You guys are gonna be okay. It's all right. You guys are all right.
Susan Lorincz was not arrested immediately after the shooting, but she was placed in a patrol car while officers tried to piece together the series of events that led to Ajike Owens' tragic death.
And then you don't have to sit straight forward. You can sit sideways, however you're comfortable. If you want to stretch out, that's fine too. And I'll let them know you need to use the bathroom. Okay? Thank you. No problem.
Later that night, Susan Lorincz was taken to the police station for additional questioning.
I just remember being terrified that she was banging and screaming, and I just remember hearing her say, "I'm going to kill you." I was in fear for my life. I mean, honest to God, I just feared that she was going to come through that door. I'm sorry, that's how I felt. I can't change the way I felt. I mean, it was sheer terror on my part. I mean, honest to God, I was shaking.
One of the things I wanted to clarify with you is, and try to understand better, is when Ajike was at the door, when she approached the door, when was it that you realized that it was her coming to the door?
Because I said, "Who's there?"
Okay, how did you know someone was there initially? Was it because...
It was a huge banging.
Okay.
They were just pounding at that door.
Okay. So initially, there was no words, it was just the pounding?
Yeah.
That's what started
Yes.
the interaction there?
Yes.
And where was the pounding at initially, where it first began?
The front door.
At the front door?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did she was it just like
It was,
one, or
no,
was
no,
it
no,
several?
it was just bang, bang, bang,
Okay.
bang.
All right, and then you said
Who's
you asked her
there?
who's
Yeah.
there? Okay. And what was said then?
I think she said, "Why do you speak to my children this way?" And I said, "Listen, I'm not going to speak to you. Go away." You know, if she had a problem, she should have called you guys. You know, honestly. I mean, if she really thought there was something seriously wrong, I don't understand why she just came over and just started pounding on my door and, you know, screaming and yelling. So.
And then what happened after you said to go away?
Go away, and then it got quiet for a bit. And then she started really banging, you know, just pounding on that door. Okay. She was relentless.
How long is a bit, would you say?
I don't know,
Like
because
5, 10 seconds or 2 minutes? Or?
It was an extended period of time, probably 20 to 30 seconds, easily.
But during that time, you didn't hear anything else? Did you think she went away?
No, well, I obviously knew she didn't go away because she was screaming while she was pounding.
Describe that. When you say screaming, describe what does that mean?
She was just, "You're not supposed to speak to my children this way. Why did you," you know, and then she was saying, "I'm going to kill you." And I'm like, holy shit. That I called them racial slurs, that I called them slaves, and that's never happened. I mean, when she said, I'm like, "What are you, stop already, stop lying," you know? And I was like, enough, what? I did call them retards once, because they just kept coming and coming. I said, "Are you retarded? You can't read the sign."
Okay.
You know, how many times do we have to tell you you're trespassing, you know?
Now, all these kids nowadays, they have tablets and phones and stuff. Are you, I mean, you can tell us the truth. I mean, it's just us in here. I think we were looking at different videos and people were telling us about, we spoke to everybody in the neighborhood separately.
Mm-hmm.
Was there other times when you got frustrated or something with these kids and you've said something else that we're not talking about? I mean, have you said other words to them or something about middle fingers or something? Tell me about that.
It wasn't at the kids, it was at the gentleman.
Who's the gentleman?
I only know him by his name, Sapito.
So, okay.
So he's a guy, he gets all the kids together, so they're screaming and yelling and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, "Stop already." And I asked him, I said, "Please stop. I don't like the yelling." I just, you know, I'm sort of gonna break down.
No, take your time. What is the crazy stuff that Sapito has these kids doing? Tell me about that.
He used to ride a four-wheeler.
Uh-huh.
And he would come around the house. I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" Then he'd have the kids on the back, no helmets, no nothing. And I'm like, "Stop already." The one time I went out there, he almost hit me.
Uh-huh.
He's like, "Missed you." Jesus Christ, really? And I'm like, I just can't deal with it. I have an injury right now. I have an aneurysm on my left kidney artery.
Mm-hmm.
If he hit me, he'd have killed me.
So, firearm. I haven't had a chance to ask you about this. Now, is that a gun that you've had for years? Or you just had it for a couple weeks? Help me understand that.
No, over a year.
Okay, over a year. And where do you normally keep that secured in the house?
That's usually next. It was in a garbage can next to my bed.
Okay. And is it like?
Now that was the Remington that you're talking about that you got over a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we were at the house, there was the other one, the 22 was a Ruger.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you had that firearm?
A few months.
Just a few months?
Yeah, not very long. And the only reason I did it is because it was so expensive to shoot the Remington.
Oh, with the 380
so
rounds
the 380,
were expensive,
way more expensive. So I got the little plinker, you know, just target practice and stuff like that.
Are you experienced with firearms? You got 2 guns, and it sounds like you have the little plinker, and you know about the price of ammo. Are you well versed with them?
I used to be terrified of firearms.
Uh-huh.
And then a friend said, "You know, you really can't defend yourself." He said, "You should think about getting a gun."
I'm just trying to understand what made you so in fear of this woman if you have these things between you.
When we had spoken previously on the other time when she screamed at me and I finally acquiesced, I said, whatever you want, I'm so sorry. She followed me a foot behind me up until I went into the house. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, she gave me the creeps.
What happened during that incident where she followed you? What was the conversation?
She said, oh, you called my kids, I can't remember, I think a nigger and a slave or something stupid like that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I finally said, I'm going to leave this alone. I don't need, to get killed in the street.
Did she tell you if she had recordings of you saying that?
I have no idea.
One of the kids?
I have no idea.
But you apologized and she continued to follow you anyway?
Yeah, she followed me anyway.
How far did she follow you?
Like right up to where I go in by the wood.
By the fence?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
She finally just went away.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
That was like a month or two ago.
Do what you did? Did you take it back and I don't know, wait however long it took for the police to get there? I'm trying to understand that. Do you feel like you did something wrong here?
I did what I felt I had to. I honest to God thought she was going to kill me. I mean, that's all I felt. I just felt that terror. I mean, it was sheer terror.
So I went out to the house that morning, when I met you out there, and I tested the door. First of all, I looked at the door. We processed the door just to see what areas might have been touched by AJ. I looked at the door frame where it had been repaired. It looked like there was a type of putty or something used where the wood frame had been separated. I examined the deadbolt lock. The strike plates were in there pretty fastened, pretty securely. The bottom lock, just the doorknob lock. And even with the door closed, I stood on the outside. There were no indentations, no dents in the door anywhere that I could see. And I pounded on the door pretty hard, and that was with the door unlocked completely. There was no lock secured, and that door was very sturdy. I'm not trying to take away the fears of being scared and everything, because I think that is a legitimate, scary situation to be put in. But to justify to go from being scared to a point where you're taking deadly force on someone who's standing on the other side of the door and you don't even know where you're shooting at, that's a big jump. And I think that's where Detective Pender is.
It could have been one of the kids standing there or something.
But it was her standing there. I mean, I heard her voice.
During the interrogation, investigators asked her about using racial slurs against AJ and her children. She initially denied the allegations, but later she did admit to using derogatory racial terms, including the N-word, out of anger and exasperation. Susan Lorincz was eventually released, but over the next few days, community activists and AJ's family repeatedly called for her arrest on the grounds that the shooting was unprovoked. Then, 4 days after the shooting, Susan Lorincz was arrested and charged with committing manslaughter with a firearm, plus 1 count of misdemeanor battery, 1 count of culpable negligence, and 2 counts of assault. She pleaded not guilty to each of the charges, but if convicted, she could well spend up to 3 decades in state prison. This is what AJ's family wanted, and unsurprisingly, they wanted her to remain in custody until the end of the trial. But after reviewing her background and considering other mitigating factors, prosecutors did an about-face and asked the judge for a $200,000 bond. When asked how much bond she could afford, Susan Lorincz said she could only come up with about $1,700. In the end, the judge did not consider her a flight risk because she had such little money, very few assets, and didn't even own a passport. As part of her bond, Susan Lorincz was ordered to wear an ankle monitor and was prohibited from possessing any firearms or weapons. AJ's family understandably was upset when Susan Lorincz walked out of the courthouse a free woman shortly after the bond hearing. The judge said she could return to her apartment to collect her belongings and live there as long as she wasn't evicted. That said, he forbade her from having any contact with the victim's family. Even so, she apparently wrote a letter to AJ Owens' children that she gave to one of the detectives working on the case. According to one source, the letter stated that she was sorry for their loss, that she never meant to kill their mother, and that she only fired the gun because she thought AJ was going to kill her. The Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy at AJ's funeral 10 days after her death. Then, exactly 1 year after the shooting, a well-attended celebration of life ceremony was held at a scenic park just outside Ocala. The event included AJ's friends, family members, and neighbors, as well as community activists from an anti-gun violence organization, War Cry for Peace. AJ's son Israel may have captured the tone of the ceremony best when he emotionally described his mother as a kind, gentle, and beautiful woman who always gave from the heart. With Judge Robert Hodges presiding, Susan Lorincz trial finally got underway 2.5 months later in the 5th Judicial Circuit Court on Tuesday, August the 13th, 2024. By then, the case was well known across Florida because it shone a bright spotlight on the state's controversial self-defense law, most commonly referred to as the Stand Your Ground law. In a nutshell, the law gave Floridians a right to defend themselves and use deadly force when they felt they were in imminent danger. In addition, they have absolutely no duty to retreat when an incident occurs in their dwelling, on their property, or any place they have a right to be. As AJ's family, the defendant Susan Lorincz, and the 6-person jury looked on, attorneys for the prosecution and the defense delivered their opening statements.
Allow your minds to wander back in time to June 2nd of 2023 in the Quill Run of Ocala. The apartment where Susan Lorincz lived. She had just gone through hell. Ajike Owens, her neighbor, had come to her door and pounded that door violently for minutes. And Susan shot through that door. And what the evidence will show is that she shot through that door for self-defense. That she was terrified that AJ Owens was going to break down that door and pulverize her. The evidence will show that Susan, at the time, was almost 59 years old, living alone in this tiny little apartment, 800 square feet. There was only one door that she could leave from. And in front of that door was AJ Owens. An individual that was tall, that was 24 years her junior, and that outweighed her by 80 pounds. It's pounding. The kind of pounding that you feel that's so powerful, that's so treacherous, that you feel the heartbeat in your throat. And you'll hear that the banging on that door is so hard that it sounds like a horse through it. But you'll also hear from some children. And you'll hear that AJ was, through the children, you'll hear that AJ was pounding on that door. And she was cursing. She was saying fuck. She was saying bitch. She was saying that bitch. She was mad, and she was mad as hell. And Susan knew it. So we are back to Susan's apartment. Everything is going on. Minutes of this. And Susan's listening to this. Listening to the threats. Feeling fear deep into her soul. Knowing that AJ goes through that door, she's an honor.
Next, the jury heard the chilling audio of the 911 call.
911 said I just saw the emergency.
Oh my God, this lady just tried to break down my door. I shot through the door. Oh my God.
Okay, repeat that address for me to make sure I have it correct. Okay, what is your name?
Susan Lorincz.
Okay, what's going? Take a deep breath for me. Calm down.
Oh my God.
You said someone tried to break down your door. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, the woman was screaming and yelling, and she was trying to break down my door, and she was...
Okay, it was a female now?
Yes. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot at the door. And I thought he was going to get me. Oh my God.
Okay, you said you shot at the door, is that correct?
Yes, I shot at the door because she wouldn't stop. I told her to get away and she wouldn't. She just begging to stay.
Okay, where's your gun now?
It's in my bedroom. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking. This was the woman who attacked me.
Okay, do you still see the subject?
I don't know where she is. I'm still in my house. I didn't open my door to her.
Is it just only you in the home?
Yes, it's just me.
Okay, I just need you to lock all your doors and windows, okay?
I have.
Okay, I'm going to stay on the line until the deputies get there.
Okay. Bye-bye.
One of the first witnesses to testify was 13-year-old Ariel Baez Rodriguez, who was playing with A.J. Owens' sons on the day of the shooting.
Now, so I want to talk about the night of the shooting. Do you remember that night?
Yes.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit before the shooting happened, okay? Were you in the neighborhood that evening before the shooting?
Yes.
Or do you remember what you were doing?
Yes.
All right. What were you doing kind of before the shooting?
I was playing around with everybody there.
Okay. Was there a field next to your dad's house?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember playing in that field at all?
Yes.
All right. That evening you were playing in the field?
Yes.
All right. So at some point did you stop playing in the field?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what you did after you stopped playing in the field?
Yes.
What'd you do?
I went to go play basketball.
Okay. All right. And is that basketball court, is that kind of near in the neighborhood there?
Yes.
All right. Now, at some point, did you ever remember seeing Isaac and Izzy's mom after you stopped playing in the field? Did you ever see Isaac and Izzy's mom walk over to Susan's house? Do you ever remember seeing Isaac and Izzy's mom walking over to the lady who shot her's house?
Yes.
Okay. And when you saw Isaac and Izzy's mom, can you tell what she looked like when she was walking over there? Do you remember?
She looked mad.
She looked mad?
Yeah.
Do you remember if Isaac and Izzy's mom said anything while she was walking over to the lady who shot her's house?
Yes.
All right. What do you remember her saying?
I remember her cursing.
Okay. Do you remember anything else specific she said
No.
when she was going over there? Okay. Hanging on the door.
Kind of in the middle.
In the middle?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see Isaac and Izzy's mom reach for the door handle?
No.
Did you ever hear Isaac and Izzy's mom say, "I'm going to kill you"?
No.
So then what do you remember happening after the banging on the door? Well, before I ask that question, did you see Isaac and Izzy's mom bang on anything else while she was
No.
at the door? All right. So she's banging on the door. Does something happen next? What do you remember?
I remember hearing, after she banged on the door, I remember hearing a gunshot.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened after you heard the gunshot?
I saw Isaac's mom run and yelling, "Call 911."
Okay.
Neighborhood residents Yvonne Costa, Franklin Baez, and 12-year-old Lyndon Robinson also testified about what they saw and heard the day of the shooting.
Was there a field next to your house, your
Yes.
structure that the children played in?
Yes.
If the children are playing in that field, were you able to see them from your vantage point in your house?
Yes.
Were they sometimes loud?
Oh, yes.
Did they often have adult supervision there with the
Yes.
children? Is it fair to say that the defendant would express displeasure with the children?
Objection, relevance, improper character.
That's sustained.
Did the defendant at some point have a no trespassing sign near the entrance to her residence?
There was a few no trespassing signs, like at the property line, that I thought my landlord put up.
Okay. Let me direct your attention to the day of the shooting, June 2nd of 2023. That evening, where were you located when all this was going on?
In my apartment.
And at some point, did you hear some arguing?
Yes.
About how long before the actual shooting did you hear this arguing?
Between 5, maybe 10 minutes.
Could you tell who was involved in this argument?
I recognized Susan's voice, but I didn't recognize the other voice, and I couldn't make out what they were saying.
Okay.
Shortly thereafter, another neighbor described the neighborhood in less than flattering terms.
The neighborhood that you live in now, can you describe it for me?
It's, I don't know, it's less than mid, it's a little bit above the hood. How's that?
Have you described it as one step away or a step away from the hood? Where were you when the shooting happened?
I was sitting on an enclosed patio at my apartment.
Was that like a little patio behind like a wooden fence?
Yeah, probably a 6-foot fence.
What did you hear?
I heard a lot of pounding, a lot of yelling, screaming, and then I heard a gunshot.
Did you hear a lot of pounding on a door like it was going to be pushed down?
Yes.
Did you call it like a cop knock?
That's what I call it.
Was it very loud?
Very loud.
Did you hear anyone screaming?
Yes, I heard a woman's voice screaming. To me, it sounded like she was screaming words, but I could not understand any of the words.
Was there a lot of pounding on the door?
Yeah,
And you said you couldn't make out what the person was screaming.
absolutely not.
Was it a female voice screaming?
Yes,
Was the female screaming at the top of her lungs?
probably.
Was it like a pound, 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 let me in kind of thing?
Yeah.
Your Honor, and I would object to the question as a mischaracterization of the witness's earlier testimony.
So ruled.
And speculation.
Did it sound like the woman was really angry?
I would say so, just by hearing her voice.
Now, could you see any of this?
No, ma'am.
So even though you were almost a football field away, you could still hear this?
I could hear it.
How long do you think the pounding went on for?
It seemed like it went on forever. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe less, but I mean, I wasn't timing it, but it just went on and on and on.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Less than 2 weeks after the trial began, Judge Hodges gave the jury last-minute instructions before dismissing them to consider the matter before them. After about 30 minutes, the forepersons sent the judge a note asking if they could listen to the audio of the 911 call made by the defendant the night A.J. Owens was killed. And shortly thereafter, the jury asked for more information about pre-existing damage to Susan Lorintz's door, as well as additional damage that A.J. may have caused before she was shot. Approximately 2 hours later, they informed the bailiff they had reached a unanimous decision.
Verdict as to count one. We, the jury, find as to count one of the charge. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally used a firearm? Yes. So say we all, dated the 16th day of August, 2024.
Susan Lorincz proclaimed her innocence and read a statement to AJ's family prior to sentencing on Monday, November the 25th, 2024.
Owens was February of 2022. I was about 7 weeks after the neck fusion, and she basically attacked me. And she threw the sign at me, and I thought, what is going on here? I didn't expect to be confronted like that. And I had a huge red scar on my neck at that point in time, and she's screaming at me, and she keeps coming closer and closer and closer. I'm backing up, and then she's trying to rip the cell phone out of my hands. I've never ever dealt with someone who was that violent that quickly. And so I was terrified of this woman, literally terrified. I've never had anyone, the first time I've met them, throw something at me and get so physically abusive. And, sorry. People are saying I wasn't afraid. I was horrified. And when she was banging on that door, it was just so loud in the house. I could not hear what she was screaming. And then I found out the children, who said they were right there, actually were around the corner of the apartment, over 100 feet away. How could they hear anything? So I don't understand. And the prosecutors knew the children lied. They found the children in the lies. They said I threw skates and I hit them. That never happened. The prosecutor knows that didn't happen. That's why the charges were dropped. I've just been flummoxed about this whole case. I don't understand. I understand I have PTSD, but this woman kept coming after me. I had approached her because I was watering my plants, and she's going, "Oh, there's a crazy old white lady." And I'm like, you can't just go around saying someone's crazy. I mean, it was insanity. So I went to say something to her, and she verbally attacked me again. She's like, you've been calling my kids racist names and stuff. And I said, no, ma'am, I have not. And she kept getting angrier and angrier. The more I said no, the angrier she got. So finally I said, I was terrified. I mean, she went from a very relaxed position to a position here. I could see her neck veins starting to bulge. Her pulse is really getting, fast. And I'm thinking, she's going to beat the hell out of me right here in the street. So I said, listen, I'm sorry. If that's what you think I said, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to offend anybody. I didn't say it, but I'm sorry. I went to walk away, and she's following 1 foot behind me the whole time to my apartment till I slammed the door in the face. Again, never had anyone do anything that aberrant in my life. That said, I would like to make a statement to AJ's mom, children, and friends. It is with heavy heart and great remorse I write this letter to you. First and foremost, I am so sorry that I took AJ's life. I never intended to kill her. The night I shot that gun, I was confused as to why she was screaming and pounding on my door. I had an idea that Israel told her I had hit him. I could not understand why she was so angry. And she truly scared me. Now that I know he told her I hit him, I am just profoundly sad. Not only did a mother die, but a daughter and a sister. I think of your family's loss and know how hard it is to lose someone you love. Not being able to see that person, look at that person, or just talk to that person is such an empty feeling. I so wish I could go back and change things so that she was still here. I would trade my life so that she could be here, if it were possible. I know that you have all suffered from her loss, and I have prayed for you and your family during this time so that you can, that God could help you. Nothing I can do will change the outcome. I can only tell you I have cried and I feel horrible for my actions. Please accept my humble and sincere apology for this tragedy.
She remained emotionless and repeatedly shook her head from side to side when Judge Hodges delivered the sentence.
The facts don't rise to a murder charge, but they are very aggravated manslaughter. Because this case, the shooting was based, I find, more on anger than fear. Ajike guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, in order to serve 25 years in the Department of Corrections. With credit for 538 days. It's $100 cost of prosecution, $100 fine, court cost. Good luck to you, ma'am. You have 30 days to appeal.
On the contrary, AJ's friends and family members broke into tears when the verdict was read. Later, outside the courtroom, AJ's mother, Pamela Diaz, spoke on behalf of the entire family.
Good afternoon. This has been a long journey to get to this day, to get to this verdict. I am very pleased with the jury, the prosecution, the verdict of the guilty. I find some peace with that verdict. I feel that although my daughter is gone forever, the children's mom is gone forever, but we've achieved some justice for Ajike. My heart is a little lighter, and we're now on the path of true healing. I'd like to thank all of the friends, family, media, community, the nation who stood beside us and walked this journey with us. My heart goes out to families who have lost loved ones to violence, and to those who have not found justice as we did. Again, I thank you. Please continue to keep the family and especially Ajike's 4 children in your prayers. Thank you.